Hey guys, for this activity, we're going to be utilizing all the skills that we've learned so far, as well as a couple new ones. Let's start by taking a look at the completed activity and see what we're trying to accomplish. We can start the clock, we can record laps, we can stop the clock, and we can reset the clock. The version that we're starting with doesn't have any of these functions yet, so let's get started. The first thing we're asked to do is to change the display. This means that we'll be making changes to the DOM, so we can use jQuery for this. Our next task is to use setInterval to start the count and set the clock to running. Now if we look at line 14, we see that we've already created a variable to hold our set interval. So we're going to want to make sure to use that. Now reading further into the code that was given to us, we see that there is also a function for count that is predefined. So we're going to want to utilize that function for counting. And we're going to want to use that every second since that is how a clock normally counts. Now finally, the reason we set clock running to true here is so we only have one running interval at a time. This is also the purpose of this if statement here, to prevent several intervals from being set simultaneously. This can cause the clock to count much faster than we would want. This is great so far, but the count function doesn't actually do anything yet, so let's give it some functionality so we can check our progress. The first thing to do would be to increment time by 1. Time is a property of the stopwatch object, as we can see at line 22, so we'll be using stopwatch.time++. The plus is just a shorthand in JavaScript for adding 1. Now the next set of instructions are a bit confusing. What we need to do is convert the time counter from seconds only to minutes and seconds. Luckily, we have a predefined function called timeConverter that we can utilize. Now we can console log this to see that the time is being converted properly. Perfect. Now we can manipulate the DOM once more. That means using jQuery once again, and now we can check our progress. Sweet, that's working. But now we need to be able to stop the clock without having to refresh the page. This one is pretty easy. We just have to clear the interval and set the clock running variable back to false. Remember, the reason we set this variable to true before was so that we wouldn't have multiple intervals running simultaneously. But since we are clearing this one, we want to be able to run it once more. Okay, now let's test to make sure that it's working. We can also see that the reset function is already working. It looks like we're almost done. We just have to add our record lap function. Okay, it seems like we're using the time converter function again, so we're just going to utilize the same function used in count. We're going to create the converted variable and call the time converter function while passing stopwatch.time as a parameter. Our next step is to add the current lap and time to the laps div. This sounds like using the append function in jQuery. Our final step is to increment lap by 1. We're going to utilize the same JavaScript shorthand that we used before. Okay. Let's pause for just a second. This instruction here says that we can't use this here. The reason we can't use the keyword this is because this would refer to the button that we are clicking. In fact, let's console log it to see what this is. As we can see, this refers to the lap button, not the stopwatch object that we would want to utilize. We can also see that the function is working properly. Well, almost. It looks like we're going to have to modify the reset function just a little bit to clear out the laps as well. This is just going to be simple jQuery to change the text of the laps div to nothing. And that's it, we're done. Congratulations, you've completed the stopwatch activity.